Hi everyone, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Excellent.
That's one at least.
One person can hear us, that's great. So thank you so much for asking us to come and talk. We've been to several of the climate cafes before just to watch, so it's cool to be here as speakers. So my name's Maddie, this is Arthur. We're registered associate nutritionists, and we're also co-founders of our business, the Crafty Pickle Co. So in this talk, we're just going to kind of explain what we've been up to since we set up our business in 2019, and our environmental aim to our business, but also kind of how we've used different connections within the community to kind of help us achieve this aim, basically.
Yeah. So I guess the start of our business is the culmination of several events. Maddie and I met at the University of Aberdeen studying our master's in human nutrition. And Maddie used to gift me jars of sauerkraut. I didn't ask for these jars of sauerkraut. She just dropped them on my desk every morning. But I really enjoyed her sauerkraut that she made, and ended up some of the best sauerkraut that I ever tried. Fast forward maybe about a year later, over the summer, we went hiking. Here's a picture of us in the Scottish Highlands, and we brought sauerkraut with us so we could have it a source of veg on our travels. And if any of you have had sauerkraut before, it's a food that will last for a while, even outside the fridge. So we are pretty excited about having a fresh source of vegetables while we were living out of our car for 2 weeks. So that sort of started the idea of the Crafty Pickle Co. and what we could do in terms of bringing fermentation back in the spotlight, but also just highlighting the food preservation power of it. Excuse me. So this brought us to Aberdeen Soup. I believe it was 2018, the first time. We attended Soup twice. We lost both times. But to be fair, my second time pitching, I had half a bottle of wine, so it wasn't best practice. But that didn't stop us from moving forward with our business. So this is sort of how it started, a simple knock up on Canva. Then we had a friend design us this Crafty Pickle logo here, which is beautiful. And then we finished with our final logo there. And I understand that a bleeding cabbage is not the most appetizing, but really the logo, we wanted to do something different with our business. We wanted to appear different. We didn't want to be this hoity-toity health and wellness brand. We wanted to speak our minds and tell people how it was, and the travesty of food waste in this country, but around the world. And we just thought that our logo would express that.
So I'll just very briefly explain kind of what we do. So Ferments Fighting Food Waste is it's become our tagline. So that sums us up in one sentence. So the process really is we acquire as much surplus or imperfect vegetables as possible. And this doesn't mean that every single jar of sauerkraut or kimchi that we make will have surplus or imperfect produce in it. We just try and get as much as we can. So we're always committed to that mission, really, and to always increasing how much we can get. We turn those vegetables into sauerkraut. So this is Arthur mixing a batch of our Not Your Nana's Pickle sauerkraut. We then put the kind of prepared vegetables into fermentation vessels. So these are bubblers. These are just a couple of examples of the types of bubblers that we use. And then we leave that to age and ferment away, and then we package it into jars. So these are for kind of basis. And then we sell those in various ways. So we go to farmers markets, we sell to retailers, we also supply the catering industry, and we have an online shop as well.
Yeah.
So this is kind of another part of our business, which we haven't been able to do that much of this past year. I think our last fermentation workshop that we did was it February last year? Was the last one we did? So right before all this happened. So it's not something we've been able to do, but it's again something that we want to be doing more of and teaching on. And then this is us at I think this is Bankery Farmers Market.
So the main reason we started our business, well, we love nutrition, we love food, but there's a growing problem in the UK and around the world of food waste. So 1.3 million tons of food goes to waste in Scotland alone. I believe the figure is around 10 million UK wide, and globally it's just outrageous. 1/3 of all food produced, now that's every single food produced, all food produced is wasted. And 20,000 tons of carrots alone are actually wasted in the Northeast. So Aberdeenshire, 20,000 tons. And we believe the 20,000 tons, believe it's contributed to cattle feed as well. So there's a weird line, I guess, that people draw, whether if it goes to cattle feed or not.
Yeah, but we would describe any food that was intentioned to go to humans. If
Absolutely.
It's then diverted out of the human food supply, that means it's waste, basically.
Exactly. And 50% of food waste happens at home. So that brings us back to our fermentation workshops, giving people another skill set just to preserve food if they've got through their CSA boxes and they have extra veg, they can preserve it through fermentation if they like to.
So food waste is a pretty serious problem, and often there's kind of, we see food waste, probably lots of us, on quite a regular basis, but we don't often stop to think about the kind of consequences that has. And just to kind of pick up on one of the kind of many issues around food waste is that it actually accounts for 6% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So clearly this is something that really needs to be addressed, but it's something that we can also kind of be a part of being the solution. And that's why kind of part of our business was around this.
So why fermentation? So for thousands of years, humans had no other form of food preservation besides fermentation. So it was the preservation power before refrigeration, before pasteurization, even before vinegar pickling. It's low energy, so it doesn't require heating at all. It's sometimes referred to as cold cooking, and that's because all we do is create an environment for specific types of microorganisms to grow. So they do the fermentation for us. It's the same process that's used for making beer, cheese, bread, yogurt, things of that nature. It offers unique flavors. So now we can't eat a meal without it, I believe. So it adds another punch. It reduces the need to add salt to your meal. So yeah, there's just a lot of benefits of eating it. Promoting veggies, again, we're both nutritionists. So fermented foods, there's a big health hype around it right now about the potential gut health benefits that they might possess. So we know that there are vegetables also. So just including vegetables, more vegetables in our diet is a good thing. And wild fermentation is just cool. Like I really enjoy harnessing the power of the microorganisms on veg and kind of seeing what we can make out of it. But there's a real growing trend for these types of food. So using fermentation combined with this growing trend of fermented foods will allow us to address food waste at a larger extent because of the market demand of fermented foods, or the growing demand of fermented foods.
So when we were first kind of talking about setting up the business, we wanted to make sure that we created something that was true to our values, and something that we, could feel proud of and that we were doing something useful with. So we wanted to make sure that the way that we kind of talked about fermentation and fermented foods was very accessible, because I think it can be quite easy to kind of see it as something that, is something that only we know how to do, and you need very specialist equipment and something that the everyday person can't do in their kitchen with whatever they have right there. So that's something that we wanted to really address, and that's kind of what we do with our fermentation workshops. We show that it's very simple, as long as you kind of have a little bit of know-how about how to take care of it, and you don't need anything more complicated than a jar, a chopping board, a knife, and some veg. Something that's very important to us is to make sure that we're not having a big impact. So this is something that we do in our everyday lives, but we wanted to make sure that we were using we were repurposing materials and equipment whenever we could. We were using upcycled materials, and this is something that we do kind of in our market stall. So pretty much everything on our market stall has been upcycled or repurposed, or it's secondhand. We got it from a charity shop, and it's also what we do with our jars. So if you see us at a farmer's market, you can give us back an empty jar and we'll give you some money off a future purchase.
We've also opened up an online shop during this pandemic, and we found a local company that had an excess of bubble wrap in their warehouse that was just sitting there. So we decided to contact this company to see if they'd be happy to just give us the bubble wrap, and they were happy to do it. I just had to go and pick it up and stuff it in our van. So these are the things that businesses can start to think about, to work with community members, that maybe there is something that your neighbor has that you need. And there's no harm in asking, especially if we can give something like bubble wrap or cardboard or packing material second life, because a lot of these things are produced for one use only. And it's a shame that they go through the recycling process, but the recycling process also consumes energy. So we need to think about getting use out of things more than once.
Definitely, yeah. Food waste is kind of key to our entire business model. It's not just something that we kind of randomly tacked on at the end of, the decision-making process. It was always something that we wanted to be a key core component of it, and that's something that we're committed to, and we're committed to in improving our impact and doing better as we go forward. Again, education, because Arthur and myself are nutritionists, that we wanted to kind of keep that within our business. So making sure that the kind of messaging that we have through our marketing is very much evidence-based, and keeping in line with that, basically. But also kind of, again, our interests lie in sustainability. So educating on that and offering, kind of tips for how you can reduce fermentation at home, kind of on our social media, just whenever we can, really. It's something that we like to talk about. And also giving back, like I said, is something that we wanted to do. So from the very beginning, we've donated a percentage of our sales to a local charity. And again, that's something that we've just kind of, that was part of our business plan, and that's something that we want to continue with. And again, our hope is that we'll be able to kind of do more of that as we grow. But it's something that was very important to us. And
the charity we donate to, I'm sure many of you have heard of them, Cfine, but we really just want to support the work that they do in addressing food insecurity, because there's no person that should be going without food. So any bit that we can donate, the better. So we do a few things differently. So I don't know if some of you might have tried our kimchi or pickle lily, but the two couldn't exist without each other, because we use cauliflower in our pickle lily. That's the yellow one there. And we use the leaves in our kimchi. So cauliflower leaves are perfectly edible, but they're not looked at as edible. Generally, they're peeled and then discarded or composted, but you can certainly eat them. We've stir fried them before, but we had the crazy idea of putting them in a kimchi, and it works fine. So yes, we've been doing that. So as Madi mentioned earlier, almost everything on our stall, minus the gazebo and table, are secondhand or repurposed in some way. So we've went charity shopping. We had a oh, go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And we've had a local artist design the sign here out of pallet wood. We have two other signs. One actually has pieces of recycled material with it as well, shaped in the vegetables, which is really cool. And as I mentioned earlier, again, we use upcycled and recycled packing materials. So some of our key allies, we wouldn't have had it as easy as we had if we didn't build a relationship with Cfine, as we mentioned. Cfine have been a godsend for us. We rent a facility, we rent a room upstairs in their warehouse. They've helped us acquire surplus food. They've connected us with other local organizations. And they're just genuinely nice people. So yeah, they've been key. Fair Share, again, Cfine operates Fair Share. Berwick Wood Produce, that's you. Mari. She's dropped, Mari dropped off cabbage to our front door. I believe we weren't even in, but she kept it there.
It was excellent service.
It was excellent service. Three Fields Veg as well. We've worked with them in Westerton Farms and Mains Elise most recently. Westerton Farms was our most recent connection. But really, we're trying to build relationship with local farmers. We realize farmers need to make money, but we also realize that farmers sometimes grow surplus or maybe veg that just is not commercially viable for them. So really trying to offer farmers a fair price for their produce, because we have received veg for free that would have otherwise been wasted, but we prefer to support farmers in their mission in growing food. So if they can get maximum profit from their yield, that benefits them, but that also benefits us in the growing local community as well.
And we just wanted to also mention a few of the other kind of key organizations that we have connected with throughout our business. They might seem a bit random, but just to kind of mention a few. So the University of Aberdeen, like Arthur said, we're both alumni of the university, and without them we wouldn't have been able to set up the business, because they actually sponsored Arthur to stay in the country. You might have recognized from his accent, he's not from around here. So that basically, with their support, that allowed us to start the business. So we pitched the idea to them before we'd even done anything really, and they saw something in it. So that allowed Arthur to stay for 2 years.
Yeah.
To actually like get this going. Too Good to Go. If you haven't heard of this, this is an amazing app where you can get cheap food from local cafes and restaurants, but they've actually also started working with people like us, which was news to me when they contacted us at the end of last year. So what they're trying to do is not just have cafes and restaurants who put kind of their any extra food that they have on at a cheaper rate, and people can come and collect it at the end of the day, but for people like us. So for example, we've put some batches on there that were experiments that you know, they weren't quite perfect, but we didn't want to just waste them, because we obviously we make quite large batches. So Too Good to Go allows us to offer these products at a very reduced rate, but it also means that we're not wasting as well. Olio is another food sharing app. We do a lot with Olio, so we volunteer as ambassadors for them to kind of tell people about what they do, and they're very simply, I guess, Tinder for food, but it's basically food sharing within the community. So if you have something in your kitchen that you're not going to get through, then you can put it on the app and someone will come collect it. But through the app as well, we've kind of made connections with individual members in the community who have been growing food at home, who have extra. So we've gone and collected vegetables from them. Other people have kind of linked us up with other kind of food waste heroes who do go collect from some of the largest supermarkets. And if they, for example, have boxes and boxes of carrots that they can't use, then we can obviously take that off their hands rather than it going in the bin.
So Olio tends to fill in the gaps of the times where other charities can't pick up food. So we had in the past picked up from Pret a Manger in Bonacorda Center every Monday. And those are just the days that local charities are unable to pick up. So we pick up a whole bunch of Pret sandwiches and salads and then give them away to people on the app, which is handy.
Yeah. So it's not so much for our business. We use Olio mostly for our own personal.
To supplement our food, yeah, and to save food while we can.
And also to make friends. We've genuinely made friends through the app, which has been really, really cool. And then finally, Brewdog. So again, this is this just basically happened because Arthur had the foresight to realize that Brewdog make cauliflower wings, and he wondered what they did with their cauliflower leaves, because if they were making these cauliflower wings fresh, we're using, you know, fresh from scratch cauliflowers, then they would obviously have quite a lot of leaves left. And after a kind of, you know, bit of conversation around it, they agreed to let us know when they were preparing cauliflower wings, and they would save the cauliflower leaves for us so that we can actually use the cauliflower leaves to make our kimchi. So we've got cauliflower leaves from the Brewdog in Ellen, from both the Brewdogs in Aberdeen as well. So just like another kind of maybe random connection, but it doesn't ever hurt to ask.
But if you look at the production of cauliflower wings, they're easily throwing away 20 kilos plus of cauliflower leaves every week. And that's insane. That's still contributing to greenhouse gases. That's still filling up their bin more than it would have been. So there's ways that we can address food waste, even in the smallest amounts, that can make a difference.
Yeah. So this is kind of what we've done so far. So when I was like putting this presentation together, I found kind of Arthur's original presentation from when he pitched the idea to the University of Aberdeen. And our aim back then was to rescue 0.5 ton of surplus or imperfect vegetables by the time we've been trading for 2 years. And we've actually surpassed that goal, which I hadn't realized. So far we've been going just over 1.5 years, and we've rescued more than 600 kilos. And it might sound like a small amount, but to us it's a lot, because we're not a big business.
Well,
we aren't going through crazy amounts of sauerkraut. So I mean, that was just through us kind of committing to doing something like this, and I'm working in various random ways to achieve that. We've also been recognised by Scotland Food and Drink, so they put us in their Leadership in a Climate Emergency report, which I think was out last year, or maybe the end of 2019. So there's lots of other really amazing food businesses based around here who are also doing really good things to address climate change, but it was pretty cool to be part of that. And we were also finalists in their North East Scotland Food and Drink Awards in 2020.
So last but not least, the future. So unfortunately, we have had to make the difficult decision to leave Aberdeen because we need to be closer to family, and Maddie is pregnant. So we have a little one on the way, and having a family close by is super important. So we wish to scale up, but we will be scaling up down south. We intend on increasing our impact. So working closely or even closer with local farmers, even veg wholesalers, and getting an idea of how much food that they're wasting or selling off as cattle feed, and offering them a better price for it. We plan on launching new products within this year. In innovation, we plan on reviving ancient techniques. So that's with the oak barrels there. We've already done a few test batches in there with some success. So we're looking to maybe acquiring old whiskey casks or old wine barrels and trying to make sauerkraut and kimchi in those. Creation of a food waste network, as I mentioned, kind of creating a community of businesses, growers who can just ask each other if for something that they might need, or if they have something that's about to go off or they have no use of, that they can give it to their fellow business or neighbor. And then we want to be carbon negative because we believe that that's the direction we all need to be heading.
So thank you so much for listening. We've got our website here, and if you want to give us a follow on Instagram or Facebook, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So we're at Crafty Pickle Co. But thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, guys, and a huge congratulations, Maddie. It's going to be very much a changed life and moving as well, and we can be well missed here in the Northeast. And
yeah, we're glad to go.
Yeah.
There's so many different ideas, and maybe one of us will pop up the link to that report that you mentioned at the end too.